Good morning. Thanks for joining the call today. Okay, so actually we are looking into the state management in Flutter, right? So far we have looked into set state technique and then inherit widgets and then we looked into provider package. I told you guys that if I get enough time I will show you block package as well, right? So today we are going to look into block state management like package. Okay, so what exactly is block? Okay, so block is just like a package. As we have provider package, block is also a package done by some guys and can be used in Flutter as a state management. Okay, so the reason why we are going for packages like provider and block is when you are using set state widget, the problem is everything will get rebuilt and you will have some performance issues. Okay, for small apps it won't be a problem, but for big apps, okay, with lot of animations, I think that will be a problem. Okay, so for that reason we need to have some sort of state management which we can rely on. Okay, so and provider and block are something we can rely on. There are other state management techniques as well, but we are not going to discuss discuss those packages because all these packages are from some third party guys. Okay, not from Google, but they have become popular over days. Okay, so what exactly is block means? Block is a package. Okay, block is a package to manage state in Flutter. So if you remember, provider is also a package, right? So when you are using an external package, things might look very similar in the way we use. What I mean is, if you are able to code using provider, obviously you will be able to code using block. Okay, there won't be much differences unless and until they have done everything very differently. Okay, you don't have to bother. If for example they have done it very differently, we'll try to learn that one as well. Why means there might be other packages which will look similar to that, so that we'll understand the flow of it, like how these kind of technical work, like I mean with a different way of doing it. So any packages that were in that umbrella following a similar model, we will be able to follow it. Okay, so that is the reason why we are learning multiple packages. Okay, and then so block, right? So what is the benefit of using block? Okay, so the benefits of using block is it helps in separation of concerns. Okay, so in programming world, generally speaking, in programming world, separation of concerns is something uh, like we practice in our day-to-day programming. Okay, maybe being an individual developer, you won't actually follow it. As long as your output works, that is fine. Whereas when you are working in some organization, you work in teams. When you are working in teams, everything should happen uh, like in a coordinated way. Okay, so if something is happening in a coordinated way, for example, just imagine there are three guys like from your college and wanted to work on some project. Okay, so what, like one way of doing it is one guy will sit in front of computer, other two guys will sit behind and they will instruct him, do this, do that, do that. Okay, and the other ways of doing it is everybody sits on their own computer, everybody will do their own part of programming. Okay, and then these three things will merge it together to work properly. So when you're working separately, you need to have a proper role. Like for example, this guy has to develop UI, this guy has to develop business logic, this guy has to develop the like core part like data layer. Okay, these kind of separations should happen. So especially when you're working on teams, these kind of separations should happen. At the same time, just imagine bigger teams. There are like 20 guys in a team. 10 guys will work on UI part. Okay, so how you will divide that UI? So through files, each and every file will deal with its own UI part. Okay, and then each and every guy will get 10, like will be contributing one page each, and then 10 pages will come tomorrow. Another, like one guy will contribute 3 pages, other guy will contribute only one page. Okay, all these things are possible because of separating the things properly. Okay, so that's why when you actually look into some projects in GitHub, or like like whenever you get some project from internet, you will observe that the code is distributed across files. Okay, the reason is we are actually separating the concerns. Maybe possibly you heard something like divide and conquer policy. Okay, that also helps actually. That's also maybe like that also is similar to these things. Okay, when you have a bigger problem, you divide that into smaller problems, and everybody deal with smaller problems separately, and then at the end all these things are clubbed together to serve towards a bigger problem, like solving a bigger problem. Okay, so what I mean is, like whenever you have some problem, divide that into smaller parts so that it can solve the bigger problem. Okay, so all these things will come under separation of concerns. So block will actually help us in doing that. And then testability. Okay, so this kind of thing benefits it will actually add. Okay, and then in order to understand block, what we have to do is, okay, I will go to pub.dev first, and then I will search for block here. Okay, so as it's a package, pub.dev is where we go and look for packages, and you can see that there are so many things that were that have been written. Okay, so for our purpose, we need to know about these two packages. As we know about these two packages, that's it. Like learning about block is done. Maybe other packages are there, right? They might be depending on these two packages internally. Okay, there are a lot of other things also. For example, these two are the main Flutter packages. You can see block library.dev has developed it, and you can see block underscore test is also developed block dev. So probably this is also an important package, but that might be dealing with testing of block. There is something like hydrated block, which is again from block library. Okay, so this is also important. Maybe these kind of things you don't have to worry about because these are from somebody else. Okay, unless and until, see, there are so many packages available in pub.dev. You don't have to learn so many, like not everything, but whenever you come across some problem, and if you find it is very difficult to do using Flutter code, Flutter.code, and you felt like, okay, there is no need to do it like this, then you can actually look into this pub.dev site. Okay, for example, as I said, web view. Okay, like web view is something you cannot code. Okay, you cannot code in Flutter. Okay, possibly even if you made so many widgets, it's certainly impossible to do it for a beginner. That is when you can actually go here, search for web view. Just imagine a PDF viewer. Okay, I can also just for PDF, and then you can see that lot of information is coming around PDF. Like just imagine you have an app which has to show some PDF file. So these are the packages you can directly use. Okay, so that's okay. For block, these are the two packages you have to understand. Okay, so when it comes to block package, not the Flutter block, this deals with the core part of block. Okay, core part of block means, see, every package will have classes, right? Classes, objects. So block itself will deal with the core parts of the block package. Flutter block actually deals with the Flutter part of block. Okay, so like for now remember like this, as we code some example you'll understand. So without wasting any time, I will just start a new project which will actually help us to code the things. Okay, I'll just start a project. So in order to start using block in our Flutter project, we need to add something in the pubspec.yaml. Okay, so as we already know that, you have to go to the packages, go to installing tab, get these dependencies. Okay, so whenever you're copying pasting these packages, indentation is very important. Okay, so like when I save, get packages is running, and you can see that there are no errors. Okay, output or problems, there are no errors, which means fine. So what I will do is I will remove everything and I will start writing the program. Okay, so what I will do is I'll take a stateless widget, my app, and then try to resolve these issues. So I'll change this to material app, home, again I will add one more widget, scaffold, body. So I'll add some commas which will help me with formatting the document properly. Okay, so now I have a very basic app. I will let me add a, okay, let me run it first. So what we are going to do now is we are going to create a very basic example which uses these packages and help us to manage state within the app. Okay, I think it's taking too long. Let me stop and restart again. So whenever I feel like it's taking too long, what I will do is I will just uninstall some apps. Okay, however, like now it's work fine. Okay, so this app hasn't got anything. Let me add some child text. Hello, and hello has started appearing over here. I will make it center. Okay, so this is fine. So what I will do is I will create a raised button. Okay, which will have some code over here. and then a child text of clicked dash times. Okay, so I'm like, why I put dash over here is I'm going to display something over here which is actually going to help us to show some number. So I'm going to get some number over here which will actually changes when this button is clicked. Okay, right now nothing is happening because nothing is given. Okay, now the first thing what we have to do like while using block is, like we do before I want to share you one thing. Okay, whether it is provider or block or something else, okay, we do things in a similar way. Okay, so if you're good with provider, obviously you can easily learn block, like it, but it all began with learning provider. Okay, but if you know set state, managing state to set state, learning provider will take some time because it's entirely done different way. Okay, so that is the reason why as part of this course we primarily discussed about set state, inherited widgets and provider, which will actually help you to drive with the further knowledge. Okay, so now what the first thing what we have to do is we have to wrap this inside a block builder. Okay, so actually I have installed some extensions. Okay, so I went to these extensions and searched for block, and then I have actually installed this, which will actually help me to write block package more efficiently through code suggestions. Okay, throughout our course what we did was we always used code suggestions in order to make things looks easier. Okay, so in the same way we are going to do it now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type something like block, and then you can see that we got some options. Okay, so basically this kind of symbols means it's going to auto generate some block of code. So I'm going to select block builder, and you can see some code is auto generated. So with multi cursor I'm going to remove this and type counter. So because I'm going to develop a counter app, you can see that there are some new issues appeared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my code from here and add that to the return container, change this to colon. Now everything is almost fine, but there are some issues. Let's see what is the issues. Okay, so it is asking for import library, so I did it, and two issues have started appear. So if you see here, build like block builder, let me go to definition. Block builder needs a qubit and then like something called yes. Okay, so what exactly is this yes? Let's see. Okay, nothing is coming here, that's okay. So okay, here S stands for state. Okay, but however there are no references, that's fine. Like we need a qubit of type S. Okay, so what block builder takes qubit of type S and then yes as well. Okay, so I need to create a counter block which take counter state. So for that I am going to create a counter block. So I'm not going to resolve the issues like this because these are general fixes. I want block builder like something like qubit. Okay, block builder takes a qubit. Qubit is again a class. If you go here, if you go here, you can see that qubit is an like abstract class. Now I am going to create a class which extends this qubit, and then I am going to use it here. So for that what I am going to do now is again I can type just block, and you can see that it is showing some suggestions, but I need a type of qubit. Okay, so I will remove this, type qubit, and you can see that there is the option for qubit. I just selected this, remove this subject, counter. Okay, so as part of our app what we are going to do is we are going to have some integer over here. Okay, so what I can do is I can just change this to int here, like wherever counter state is I can just change that to int. So by initializing this class I can just make it 0. Okay, so there are other ways also you can actually initialize it. Okay, you can actually pass something over here and then pass over here. Okay, but I'm not doing it now because I want to keep things simple. Well, my whole intention was to show a simple example where you are actually using block, and then you guys have to take it further for learning it much deeper. So right now I have a qubit. Okay, I have a qubit. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, now I have a qubit which is actually initializing a value to 0. Okay, state to 0. And then, so let me change this counter qubit. Okay, now it is fine. So and now you can see that some issues have started appearing. Okay, because it is saying that block provided.off called is used, but and there are some issues. How to resolve these issues is, like, we need to ensure that my app is passed properly to the void main using some block provider. Okay, block provider. Here we are using block builder. We actually need to have something called block provider, and then we have to pass this qubit as well as this class to the block provider, which will help us in managing state. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another stateless widget, my block app, and then I'm going to remove this. Again I'm going to type block. Now I need a block provider. Okay, so it has shown something, so I'll put a colon over here, and then the subject block is counter sub qubit, so I will pass it here, and then here I have to pass my app, and then I have to change this my app to my block app. After this, the issues have disappeared. Now I need to access state over here. Okay, this is how I access state. So the state is going to have the number. Okay, and then from here you can see that 0 has started appearing. So if I make it 10 for example, so 10 has appeared. Okay, so okay, that's okay. So like if you want to know what this super is doing, you have to actually go to qubit and see what qubit constructor is doing. Okay, so if you go to qubit class and they're just initiating. Okay, we're just ensuring that through super we are calling this constructor as well. Okay, so I'm closing it. Now I have a button which is showing some value from the counter qubit. Now I actually want to increment. How we increment in qubit is void increment. Like, increment means this is something you can give anything you want. Okay, this is a function name, like I mean method. Okay, we have to use something called emit. Okay, emit keyword, and then we have to access state here plus 1. And now after refresh you can see that like still the button is not working, even though if I have an increment, because the reason is I'm not calling this increment function over here. So I will go here, I will just call the increment function. Okay, for that I have to access the context block. So for block I need to pass the type. If I go here I need to pass the type. Okay, so which will be counter qubit, and then dot. See, only if I pass this method over here it will allow me to access the methods. Okay, if I don't pass it, it won't know what method it has to use. Okay, So now let's see if it works or not. And now you can see that the number is getting incremented. Okay, so now we are actually managing state. Okay, you can actually pass this state to a very, like, I mean, to a text widget separately and then get it there. Okay, we are actually responding to actions. We are giving some feedback to the user. Okay, we are managing state in Flutter using block now. Okay, so this is how we do, like, we manage state in Flutter using block. But there is one more way of managing state using the block package. Okay, qubit is considered as the simplest way. And if you recall, in block builder we have, like, it has shown something like counter block. Okay, but still that's okay. Count, like, this block builder accepts qubit also. There is one more, there is another way of qubit. Okay, there is another qubit which is slightly advanced than the basic qubit. Okay, that is called block. Block is a special type of qubit which you can actually use in your apps to manage state. What I mean is, not just qubit, there is another special type of qubit which is called block, which you can use in your apps to manage state. So what I mean is, I will just go here. So far we have looked into only one way of managing state in block. Actually, there are two ways of managing state in block. Okay, one way is using qubit, the other way is using block. Qubit is the basic way of managing state in block. Like, at the same time, block is also a basic way, but block is a advanced type of qubit, is a special type of qubit. Okay, so just as I created a qubit, I'm going to create block. Okay, I'm going to type block, and then you can see that some code has generated. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to create counter block. Okay, so wherever counter state is, I'm going to mark it as int, because I'm going to return integer, and I'm like, wherever I'm initializing, I'm going to initialize that to 0. So here we have something called counter event, right? Here, like, if you take qubit, here we are actually declaring methods, but when it comes to block, we actually map events to state. Okay, we are going to have some events. How you declare events is enum counter event. Okay, and then we are going to declare something like increment. So if I want to decrement, I will add decrement over here, like increment comma decrement. Okay, so now I have created a block which is going to have two events, both increment and decrement. Okay, so now I need to implement something here. So in order to implement these two stuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use switch statement. Switch, give me a second. Switch. Okay, let's see if I can use some code, like code auto generation. Okay, so it came. Okay, counter. Okay, so counter event, and you can see that, like, okay, now it is fine. Let me remove this. Okay, like, actually what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use some code generation in order to make things easy. Okay, okay, for some reason it's not working. Okay, that's okay. So okay, we'll go with the other way. Counter event, and then here you can give, what you can give is counter event dot increment. Okay, so sorry, I think we should not use counter, we are going to write event here. So let's see what will happen now. So okay, so as a pass event here, you can see some yellow like amber squiggly line has appeared. I can add missing clauses like this. Okay, now you can see that increment and decrement method are auto generated. Okay, for this example I'm not going to write decrement, I will remove it from here also, and then I'm going to add something over here. Okay, so in order to return the value, so what I'm going to do now is state plus 1. I'm going to, like, I want to do state plus plus. Okay, but how we do that in block is you have to use yield keyword. Okay, so async, sync, yield, all these keywords are related to like threading in Flutter. Okay, like multi-threaded programming kind of keywords. These things you can actually understand much better if you write a very basic example of yield. Like try to write some basic examples of yield, async. Okay, those kind of things will actually help you to understand, like if you add something like this, what will be the sequence of executions of your code. Okay, so each and every, like, there are like 3 to 4 keywords. Okay, those things you can actually try to learn yourself by writing some basic programs. All you have to do is you have to go to your void main and then try to use these keywords and do a for loop, try to print some console front and back, and then see what will, how the sequence of execution will be impacted. But in our case it's not that important, right? Like if you try to write those things, it will take too long, right? So I just use this keyword, but this, like the basic understanding is you have to understand that this is how we do it in block. Okay, so now what I am going to do is I'm going to take this counter block and then I'm going to change this counter qubit to counter block. Wherever I have used counter qubit, I'm going to do it counter block. So I'm going to disable this class as well. So immediately you can see that it has thrown error. So what I could do is I need to use add and then event. Okay, counter event dot increment. So here also I have to change to counter block. So now everything is fine. So now you can see that the number is being incremented or using counter block. Okay, so I'll just make some small modification over here, so in order to see that it is working fine completely or not. Okay, so now we are able to change the state using the block, like block class. So the takeaways from this example is there are two types of blocks. One is called qubit, the another thing is block itself. Qubit is the simplest way to manage state. Block is slightly advanced way of doing things. Okay, you'll have like more benefits when you actually use block. Okay, what are those benefits is separation of concerns. When you have separation of concerns, like you can actually get better testability. Okay, like you can actually test your app using some sort of automations. Okay, see here when I speak about testing, how we are testing this app is by actually interacting with the app. But in real, like in computer world, testing might be different. Okay, they actually write programs to test. Okay, they will not just open a website and check, click buttons. They will not do like that. Okay, that is fine. They might be doing some, in some cases they will be testing like that. In most of the cases, testers also write so much of code. Okay, they write so much of code to actually test the app. Okay, being a developer, you might need to add test cases. So in order to add such kind of programmatic test cases, you need to have some solid architecture for your app. Okay, as long as you are not testing your app programmatically, it's fine. But if you want to test your app programmatically, you need to ensure that your app is having having a good architecture, like for example provider or block. Okay, so in block, like especially when we use block, you can realize that this part of code is UI. Okay, this part of code is doing the business logic. If I move this integer to some other model, that will be the data layer. Okay, that will be actually doing with the models, data layer, getting data and everything. Okay, here we have included both the data layer and business logic. But however, we have separated the user interface as well as this logic, and eventually how this will help is, it will help you to split your code across multiple files, and multiple people can do the same project. Okay, without bothering about like what the other guy is doing. For example, just imagine with this example, if I want to add some decrement feature to the app, that guy who is owning the business logic layer will actually add the decrement keyword over here and add some code over here and leave it. Even after that, the user interface is not broken. Okay, that is because they are separated. They are like there are loosely coupled. Okay, there is some one more keyboard. Okay, loosely coupled and tightly coupled. When we say tightly coupled, just imagine a project which is developed using this tightly coupled, like in a tightly coupled way. You're not actually using these keywords in your project. You developed some project, okay, where you have not followed any architectural patterns, okay, where you have not followed so many things. You just developed some project in a single file or in very few files. You know that, okay, I can use this function over here. Okay, and you didn't use it. You just coded everything, and then output is coming and everything is fine. But you didn't follow the programming rules. Like there is nothing like predefined rules. Okay, like just imagine you try to change some feature in your app. What will happen is it will break so much of stuff. Okay, so much of other stuff, so much of dependencies. Like you after few days you will not understand that where exactly you need to change the stuff. Even if you change in one place, other places will be broken. Okay, that is because your app is tightly coupled. Okay, being a programmer, we should target loosely coupled applications. So each layer should not have so much of dependencies. See, if there is a modification done to business logic layer and if UI fails, that is still fine. Okay, but if there is a way that even if business logic layer is changed and then UI doesn't fails, that is the approach you have to take. That is what it means by loosely coupled applications. Okay, you have to be loosely coupled. Okay, that is like maybe initial stages you might not get it 100%. Okay, you might not understand it properly, but as days passes on and you start working as a team, okay, then you will understand all these terminologies much better. Okay, so the takeaways from this class are, there are two ways of using block package. Okay, one is qubit, the another thing is block itself. Okay, block is a specialized type of qubit. So we are going to have more benefits if you are using block. Okay, because we can actually map events to state, whereas here we are just giving methods. Okay, and then we are going to use block builder in the user interface to actually access the state, and then we are going to have block provider to the highest possible level so that the underlying things can actually you access the state. Okay, three things: block provider, block builder, and then the what is the, like, I mean, base block is qubit or block itself. Okay, I think that's it for this class, guys. But like, take this learning to further expand your knowledge on block, but initial stages is not exactly required. But as you write your apps and you come to a position like what kind of approach you should take for your state management, then you can actually start digging further. Okay, see, in order to use block, you really don't have to know everything about block. Okay, whatever I shared here, you can slightly make it, like, make changes, and then start using that in your app. Okay, thank you so much for joining today. Have a good day.